Hello everybody, a very warm welcome back to MEC-TEC. We're back in the wilds of Norfolk and we're working on a car you may have seen in the background. It's now actually going to feature on the channel. It's my dad's 93 Ford Granada Scorpio estate. It's a 2.9 V6 with an auto box. He's had this for, I can't remember how many years, but I actually found this car when I was on my way home from school on a bus when I was 14. It was at a car dealership that the bus route I used to get on. I used to drive past this car dealership every day. And I knew Dad was looking for this particular model in this particular colour, and I told him about it, and he spent the next weekend going to see it and bartering with the guy at the car dealership, getting a free set of mats, a full tank of fuel, this, that and the other, bit off the price, and he ended up buying it. And as I say, that was when I was 14, so that is, hang on, I'm just trying to work it out, 24 years ago. So it's 24 years. It doesn't get used that much these days. It used to get used a real lot when it was first bought for obviously daily use, and also we used to do a lot of electronic shows with it. We used to have it full up to the roof with stuff, big trailer on the back, box trailer, we were all full up with gear as well, and it was a proper load lugger. So like more now, it's sort of more like for high days and holidays. It is used very sparingly, but it does need an oil change, and it also needs a gearbox oil change. So we've got a full Gearbox Service kit there. There's a new filter, O-ring and whatever else. We've got that's the engine oil. We've got the ATF fluid to go in it. We've got the engine oil, and we've got a new filter there as well. So that should hopefully keep it really good. Now I've also got some of this ZX1, which has had in the engine before, but we're actually going to use a little bit of it in the gearbox this time as well. When I do the oil on the gearbox, you can use it up to, I think it's a 2.5% ratio to the amount of fluid that goes into the gearbox. I will check that and let you know. So we're going to get it up in the air, get the engine oil drained first. That's the easiest one. I'm not going to bother running it up. It's all drained to the bottom, so it's all hopefully going to be knocking all my stuff over. All the sludge is already a bit at the bottom. We'll get that drained out. It hasn't done many miles since the last oil change either, so it should be absolutely fine. The gearbox I've never done, so that's going to be a voyage of discovery. We'll see what we can do with that. We've got to take the sump off. The filter is housed inside there. Obviously we've got a new gasket to go on and all that sort of thing. So let's, I may give you a quick tour around the car and then we'll crack on and get some work done. Rightio, I think from memory this colour is called Nouveau Red, but I'm not sure, so correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. It's all original as far as we know. Possibly may have had some paint work before we got it, but how old was it when we got it? It was it done 60,000 miles. It's done 60,000 miles when he got it.
5 years.
5 years old when he got it. Is that right? Yeah, 99, 98, yeah, somewhere around there anyway. So yeah, so it's 5 years old when he got it, and it's been looked after very well ever since. You've got all the roof bars on there, as you can see, standard attire for the estate. These bars are bolt on, they are set up. And Dad's into the older amateur radio. He's been licensed 60 years, have you? 61 years he's been licensed. So these are for his aerial. He's got a big aerial that goes onto that mount over there called the Bug Catcher, which is made by a company in Texas originally. Good old sunroof, as you would expect from a car from the 90s. Most cars in the 90s had a sunroof, which was great. That's the original registration number. He had a couple of personal regis on it over the years, and when he put it back onto the standard plate, they gave him some random reg back, and I said to him, why don't you write to DVLA and see if you can get the original reg back, because that's the one that's on the radio when you put the radio on for the code. And sure enough, they gave it back to him again, so it's got the original reg back on it, which is really cool. Obviously all original wheels and everything else. It's got the heated front screen in it, electric windows all round, as you would expect from the top of the range one. Electric mirrors. Now it doesn't look like it's got electric windows all round if you look at the door there, because it's only got the two switches, but the back window switches are actually in the centre there. They're the two ones there. It's got heated front seats in it, which are the switches down there. It still smells like leather in here after all this time. Just sit inside. The car now has done 114,775 miles. So Dad's done about just under 60,000 in it. Not got auto lights on this one, but it didn't have that sort of thing back in the day, I don't think. You've got the old cruise control on the steering wheel there. You've got the very early style trip computer there. Obviously aircon. Separate tape deck, radio, and a separate CD player underneath. This is to do with the ham radio setup which Dad's had in this car all this time, and he's actually working on at the moment to revamp it. Obviously you've got your park reverse, neutral drive, 3, 2, 1 select. You can lock it into first, second or third, obviously to aid you if it's icy out or whatever else. Got the nice wood trim, as you can see. I just looked in this glove box a minute ago before I started filming, and there's stuff in here that I haven't seen for probably 20 years or more. This, some of you may remember this. This was a thing you could sign up to from the Times newspaper, and it was called the Fun Day Times, and it was basically like a kid's newspaper. That was still in there from when I was a kid. And there's also in here as well a thing I used to have. It's like a little don't know what you call it, like a LCD thing that tests you on your maths. So I've had that since I was probably about, I don't know, 6, something like that. So it's been transferred from car to car, and it obviously ended up in this car, and that's where it stayed. So that's still in there. Close that back up. Seats in, it's all in lovely condition, as you can see. There's no rips or tears. They all work fine. Headlining's absolutely mint in it. Obviously the sunroof is electric, as you would expect. I'll just show you in the back. Now, at the moment the back seats are flipped up because, as I say, Dad's doing some work on the amateur radio side of things. So when you've got that flipped up, you've got a massive space in there once the rear seats fold flat. It is a real good load lugger, this. Proper estate car. I can't open the boot at the moment because it's too close to the Fiesta, but you can imagine how big the boot is in there. So anyway, that's a quick tour around the old Scorpio. I'll just show you under the bonnet. Where's the bonnet pop on this? Don't know. It's down here, the other side. There it is. I'll just show you. This is the 2.9 EFI lump in this. There we go. All original under there. Original slam panel and everything else. It is in really nice condition, this car. Got a split charging pole. What do you call that? It's not an inverter, is it?
No, it just splits up the alternator between 2 batteries.
Oh, it splits the alternator for 2 batteries, yeah. So it's split charging, so he's got 1 battery in the boot and one, obviously the one under the bonnet. That's obviously for the amateur radio side of things, where he has the extra battery in the boot to run all the radio gear. And all the megawatts of power he's running. I won't say how many. So yeah, anyway, right, I've shown you around the car. Let's get this thing up in the air, get the oil drained out of it, and then we'll move on to the gearbox, which is the main thing that we need to do, because he had a replacement gearbox probably about 15 years ago when Dad unfortunately towed something that was a little bit too heavy, a big tower, and it knackered the gearbox. So it's had a gearbox in it, but it's never had this fluid change since. So let's obviously get the engine done. That's the easy bit, and then we'll crack on and get that bit done. I'll come back to you when we've got it up in the air. Rightio. You can see the drain plug for the sump just here. It's a 13mm nut. Oh, it went. That's good. Got my sump here to drain it into. See what gunk we get out of this, if any. It should be pretty clean, really, because I haven't gone anywhere since the last oil change, but I like to keep it maintained. Yeah, that's not too bad at all. Still pretty clean. I mean, it's not totally clean, obviously, but it's pretty clean. I'll get this drained out. I'll show you what comes out of it when I'm out from underneath the car. Right, there is the oil all drained out. It's a little bit dark, as you can see, but it's not got any sort of sparkles or sludge in it, so it is all in sort of good nick as far as oil goes. Just show you under here, the oil filter is located on the driver's side just there. So I've got to try and get that undone now without my oil filter remover, because I've got to bring it with me. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting job. So I'm going to get that taken off, make sure it all lines up with the seal on the new one, make sure it's all the right one, and then we'll get that fitted, and then we'll get on to the main event, which is the gearbox oil change, which is that sump. Let me just move this torch. That sump just there. all those bolts around it. That's what we've got to change. The filter inside there and obviously the oil as well. So it's going to be an interesting job, I think. So see what that sort of state that's in, because that's not been changed in probably 15 or 20 years. So yeah, I think that's what overdue a change. Right, I'm going to get this oil filter off and I'll come back to you once I've managed to get this undone. Right, there we go. There is our new oil filter in there. It is a slightly different shape to the old one, but it does fit no problem. The oil seal was exactly the same size. That was what I was worried about. Didn't have my oil filter remover up here with me, so I had to go full yeehaw on it. I'll just show you. I've got to get out from under the car. To go full yeehaw on it and stick a screwdriver through the side. Which worked okay, so that was good. But you can see the reason I didn't want to do that to start with is you can see the body of this one overhangs the oil seal quite a long way, and I wasn't sure whether the new one, being the whole thing was thinner, whether the oil seal was the same size. But I checked it up online and the part number that I bought was the correct one, so I just went for it, and luckily enough when I took it off it was the same size, so that's really, really good. So that's that part done. Let's get the oil filled up before we go any further, and then I won't have to worry about the engine anymore. At least I know that's not going to go bang with no oil in it. So I'll do that and I'll come back to you when we're back under the car. Right, oil's in. We're just going to give it a quick start up, get the oil going around the engine and the oil filter, and then we'll check the level again, make sure that it's all right. Let's see what this, when's the last time this was started, Dad? A couple of months ago this was started. So on the button. A little bit tricky to start with because obviously it's got to get the oil round. That's what we've got that ZX1 for, because that helps out a lot. It sticks to you. See, it's quieting right down now. Look at that. Now the oil's gone round. Hear that go, did you? That's good, isn't it? So when we used to do that every time, that ticking, when we used to start it up after a long period. When we put the ZX1 in, it cured it completely. So we're going to work out next how much we need to put in the gearbox, and whatever's left we're going to put into the engine, so we've got a bit in both, because we've only got one bottle of it, and we've already had ZX1 in the engine previously, so it has already effectively been treated once before, you know. That sounds lovely, doesn't it? Yeah, give that, yeah, stop that there. We'll stop that there, and then we'll check the oil level again. Now it's obviously gone through the oil filter and gone all around the engine and everything else, and then obviously top it up accordingly. I'm going to leave that for a minute because we know that it's roughly around the right level. It's just underneath full, and we're going to go onto the gearbox now and sort that out. Right, we've got the sump there. You can see there's a row of bolts right around the edge of it, all 13 mils, and there's no drain plug, which is daft. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buzz all those 13 mils off, and leave 2 loose at one end, and just let the drain pan hang down so that we can then drain it into the tub without it dropping fluid all over the floor. Hopefully that's the plan. So it shouldn't take too long to buzz these off. I've got my electric ratchet with me, which is handy. I'm going to get these buzzed off, get this drained out, and then I'll come back to you and show you what sort of condition the fluid is in once we get it in the tub. Let's crack on. Rightio, as you can see there, that is the inside of the bottom of the gearbox. This section here is the filter, which is held on with one 10mm. So I'm going to get that undone right now, and we'll hopefully see that it lines up with all the holes on the new filter. The new filter is slightly smaller, but as long as all the holes and filter ports line up, then obviously we'll be alright. So we'll take this off. That wasn't very tight. Noticed that with all these bolts on this, that they weren't very tight, and unfortunately I did have one casualty and I snapped one off, but not much I can do about that. Only one, luckily, so it should just pop off. Yep, there we go, there's one. Oh, all everywhere. Put that under there. Let that drain out. That was fairly painless. So I'll get this out from underneath the car, and we can then compare it to the new one and make sure that things are all in the right place, and then hopefully it'll just be a case of bolting that filter back on. We've got a nice new gasket to go on the sump. I'm going to use a bit of RTV on it as well to make sure that it seals nice, and it'll just be a case of putting it all back together again and filling it up with oil and hoping for the best. Hopefully it'll be alright. Let's carry on. I'll come back to you when I'm out from underneath the car, because it is a bit tight under here. Right, there's our two filters side by side. They are slightly different in size, but nothing horrendous. The ports both line up and the bolt hole lines up, which is obviously the most important thing. There is a slight difference inside. I'll show you on this one. It's got like a fibrous material in there, whereas the new one is a metal screen. You can see there. So whether that's a metal screen underneath in the old one, it's full up with gunk, or whether it's just a different material, I'm not sure. But I've held that one on top of that one, and they both line up with the holes and everything else. So I just thought I'd show you those two side by side. Also, you can see in here, this is obviously the sump, and there's a magnet in the corner, which obviously picks up any contaminants and sludge and gunk and metal particles and whatever else. And there is a little bit of sludge on it and a few bits of metal, so it's done its job. I think we'll get that all cleaned out, obviously get the new filter put back on, which is just that 110mm, and then we need to get this gasket off of here. We've got a nice new one to go on. Hopefully that will peel off in one piece and won't be too much of an issue, and then we can start the reassembly process, which is going better than I thought, to be honest. Top banana, Dad said. Yeah, Dad's in the background, give me moral support. There he is.
Hi everyone.
He's moral support, so I'm just working away at this. Yeah, this is coming off really easy, look at that. That's good. It hasn't actually had any RTV used on it by the looks of it, it's just been clamped down. Oh, broke it there, but doesn't matter, I've got a new one. I'm going to use a bit of RTV on this because it was weeping very slightly. So just to obviously give it a little bit of extra. Chances are we're not going to change this for another 20 years, so it won't have to come off for a while. So right, I'm going to get this cleaned up and then we can start the reassembly process. Right, I'm going to get this new filter put in while we're under here. I've put the new O-rings on both ends, so they're on there, and I've put a little bit of oil around them so they go in hopefully very nicely. One end is bigger than the other, so it can only go one way. It should just hopefully push in fairly easily with any luck. Hopefully the O-ring will just seat in there nicely. Push it in evenly. Oh, that didn't go in. A little bit of a twist, there you go. That'll get one of them in, and the other one just pops in. There you go, that went better. I'm just going to do that again, make sure that it's right in. Yep, that sounded good. And it's just one 10mm bolt. Just goes through there. Where's my ratchet? There it is. Don't want to go too mega tight on this because it was only nipped before. that'll be enough. I don't want to go too mad with it. It seems like it's on there alright. Both the O-rings are in there. There's nothing sticking out the side of them, which means they've gone in straight and square. So in theory, that's that bit done. So I'll get back out now, get the sump cleaned up, and then we can start reinstalling that. Right, giving that a good old clean up, as you can see there. Lovely and clean inside. Just sort of show you this. This is actually a separate magnet you can take right out. And I've cleaned all that up, got rid of all the gunk and the swarf off of it. It's got a little sort of provision there for it, so sticks in the corner there like that, and that is good to go back on. We've got our new gasket here, which I'm going to work out which way around it goes, because the holes are slightly different way round, whichever way you put it up. I think it's that way. Not sure. Yeah, that looks right. Anyway, I'm going to work that out, make sure that's right. I want to give it a little smear of RTV both sides, and then we can get that bolted back on there and get it sealed up and stop it dripping all over the garage floor, which will be nice. Let's carry on. Right, the sump is now all back on, as you would have seen, and this is the oil that came out of the gearbox. Pretty brown, not too horrendous. What we're going to do, because obviously you can't get all of the gearbox oil out when you drain it from the sump, we are going to measure out what's coming out of it and put the same amount back in again, so at least we know it's got the same amount back in there again. Obviously the torque converter will still have oil in it, so you won't get it all out, but we have got obviously as much out as we can doing this process, and obviously changing the filter. So I'm going to get this drained into these 2 milk cartons. We'll work out exactly how much has come out, put the same amount back in, and work out how much the next one we're going to put in with it, and it should be good to go. Let's carry on. Right, got all the oil topped up on the engine and on the gearbox now. I put half the ZX1 in the engine and half of it in the oil. It's not quite enough as what they say, but obviously we've only got 1 pot, so I'll just do half and half, so we've got some in each. Let's see if it moves now with the new oil. There we go. It took a minute for the oil to get round, but I need to cycle it through the gears a few times and just take it up and down the road, and then we need to check the level again once it's hot and it's been driven. That's what they say, you've actually got to check it once it's when it's running, when it's hot, and when it's been run. So just going to take it up and down the road, just make sure that it's all circulated around everywhere, and hopefully we should be all good to go with any luck. Top banana. Right, I just took it up the road and back, and you're supposed to check the level on this with it running up to temperature, and as you can see there's no oil on the dipstick, so it definitely needs some more, so it must have been low before we drained it. So I'm going to get some more put in. You fill it through the dipstick tube over there, We're going to get some more of this stuff in, which is ATX Dextron 2, I think it is. So it's because obviously it's an older auto. We'll get some more of that put in and obviously top it up, try it again and see how we get on. Let's carry on. Right, we have tested this about 3 or 4 times now and we've topped it up every time, and actually looking at the fluid that we've got left in the jug, we ended up putting about 3.5 litres in there and we only got 1.2 litres out, so it shows you how low it was, and the gear change is vastly superior now to what it was before. So that is a good job done, I think. That is engine oil changed and a filter, and gearbox oil changed and a filter. Took a little while, obviously we have a little bit of faffing about with all the bolts, and unfortunately one did snap, but luckily it was only one and it was on a in between 2 ones that were quite close, so it shouldn't have any effect on it. And obviously I've used RTV on the gasket too, so there we go. Just in case you're wondering, the bonnet isn't shut, which is why it looks like it's sitting up in the air. But yeah, that is that job. Top banana job done, all the rest of it, and ready for use once again. So that is absolutely mega. Right, not to be outdone, the Triumph decided to wanted a bit of action this weekend as well, and Mrs. MEC-TEC said you should be filming that. So now I'm filming this too. We tried to start the old Triumph up and it don't want to know. We've checked for spark and it's got spark, but the electric fuel pump, which is sitting here, is running as if it's not got any fuel in it, even though the car has got fuel. So what we're going to do is we're going to swap the pipes over. I've got the air filter off already. It's for 4 bolts that go into the side of the carbs there. We're going to swap these 2 pipes onto the mechanical pump and see, or swap rather the feed one on, see if it pumps still, because we can't remember whether that pump works or not. And then if it does, we'll run the mechanical pump and see if we can get it going. Oop. As you can tell, I'm out of breath because I just pushed this car down the driveway. So I'm going to get this feed pipe swapped over from the tank down to there, and we'll see whether the new, or the old pump I should say, still works, and if it does we'll swap back to that from the electric one. We've got the pipe hooked up to the top of that mechanical pump there, and Dad's just going to crank it over and we're going to see if any fuel comes out. Go on then. Yeah, I know, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Hang on. The air filters are falling over everywhere. Go on and try again. No. I'll tell you why it's trying to start is because the electric fuel pump is, which is now not connected to anything, has got a bit of fuel left in it and it's spraying it straight into the end of the carb. Yeah. Right, let me put my hand over that so that don't do that. Go on. That mechanical pump's not doing anything. So we have got another mechanical pump for this, so we're going to see if we can fit another mechanical pump, a new one, and see if that cures the issue. I can't believe that. It was firing out of the that electric pump there, and it was going straight into the mouth of the carb, which is why it's trying to start, which is incredible. So I'm going to take that hose back off of there again. I think it's 2 bolts hold that fuel pump on there. We'll change that over and see whether that cures our issue. Right, just to be on the double safe side, we have actually swapped the hose over onto the other side of the pump to see whether that actually works any better. So go on then. No, nothing at all. So we think that pump has definitely had it, which I think is why we went over to the electric one in the first place. So we'll get that swapped out. We've got a nice new one on here, look, new old stock. We'll get that swapped over and I'll come back to you. Right, I just wanted to show you the difference between these 2 pumps here. Hopefully you'll be able to hear this on camera. If I do the new one first, you should be able to hear this pushing. And it will suck on this side. Whereas if I do that with the old one, the sucking side is virtually non-existent. So that pump has definitely had it. So it's not sucking any fuel, which is what we thought. So new one is on. We're going to go on. We've got a nice new gasket that's just found there from Rimmer Brothers. We'll get that put on We've also got a new temperature sensor to put on, which we'll put on while we're here as well. So I'm going to bolt this back on with a new gasket, a little bit of RTV around it. That's only 2 bolts, that's easy enough, and hopefully that should cure it. We'll come back to you once we've got it fitted and see if it pumps it. Right, new pump is on. I'm just going to see if it pumps out any fuel. No. Alright, stop a minute. No. Not getting any fuel. Okay, I'll come back to you once we've had a little bit more investigation. Right then, you're thinking to yourself, hang about, he's back in the other garage in Essex. You are absolutely correct. Unfortunately, I forgot to record an ending for the video. So you would have just seen the Granada is absolutely all sorted out. Engine oil service and gearbox oil service and filters, everything else you would have seen now. That is absolutely superb. It is working very, very well now. Beforehand, it did actually have an issue with the gearbox where if you selected it manually through the gears when you were driving along, it would really lurch and jerk. Now it goes into every gear, absolutely lovely and smooth, and it is absolutely perfect how you would want a luxury Ford Granada Scorpio to be. So that is really, really good. The Triumph, on the other hand, was a bit of a fail, to be honest with you. We went back to the electric fuel pump and that still didn't work. The new mechanical fuel pump, the arm on the end of it was the wrong shape to touch on the cam. So we couldn't use the new fuel pump in the end, which is why it wasn't pumping in that last little bit of video you would have just seen. So in the end, we had to abandon it and push it back into the garage. And we have got a brand new electric fuel pump coming for it. So that will probably be fitted in the near future, and I'll probably film it and tag it onto the side of another video or whatever else. So there we go. We've won on one and not quite one on the other. But anyway, at least we know exactly what's wrong with it now. We did have another problem with the Triumph in between off camera as well, where a wire had pulled out and we lost cranking as well for about half hour until I spotted it and managed to obviously plug the connection back in, and then it was fine again. So that's really, really good. At least it's not any worse than when we started. So there we go. As I said, that is going to be it for this video. If you do like what you see, make sure you do those 4 things for me: like, subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell. It's all free, it costs you absolutely nothing, and it really, really helps me out on the channel. I do really appreciate it. Thank you very much to everyone who has subscribed. Remember, I've got Instagram, MEC_TEC1985, and I have got Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. Now, there could be an exciting new project coming to the channel in the near future. I'm not going to say any more than that, but I am mega excited. I know what you're thinking, he doesn't need any more projects, he's got enough on the go. Well, you are absolutely right, but I've been chasing this particular project for quite a long while now, and it's finally come to fruition, fingers crossed. So make sure you stay tuned in the near future, as there will be something new coming to the channel. All that's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I'll see you again next time. Cheers guys.